From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening, as we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Hello and welcome, I'm Ananya Datta and I'm here with the Friday edition of Race to Power. Here's what's coming up in the next 30 minutes. Now, in a country that has never seen a female president and only once has had a female head of a political party, how keen are voters to see a female black Asian president? We're talking about United States, in case you were wondering. It's going to be a week since election results in Venezuela and the unrest is only getting worse. The opposition leader is currently in hiding and people from across the country are set to hit the streets. Now, it is widely known that in the 200 years of election history, the United States has never had a female president. In fact, till the year 2016, no major political party has ever had a female nominee. Hillary Clinton changed that. 2024 is on path to see a contest between a man and a woman only for the second time in history. So tonight, we look at the US battle of sexes. Since Kamala Harris has entered the race, she has managed to close the gap in opinion polls. In some key states, she has even managed to leave Donald Trump behind. And that brings us to our focus, the gender divide. That has also widened in the last couple of weeks. All right, to take this story further, we are being joined by John Potts from Boston. He's a professor of political science at Northeastern University. Professor Potts, thank you so much for joining us here on WION. Let me start with this. It's, often said that a week is a long time in politics. So if last week was about the aftermath of the assassination attempt on Donald Trump and Kamala Harris joining the race, this week we have been tracking a lot of polls coming in about how the November 5th day might look like. So let me ask you this. What is your assessment? How are you seeing these two campaigns at this moment?
Well, I think in the polls, as you point out, definitely some shifting happening, even in the battleground states, which I think are the most critical ones, as opposed to the national poll. So I can see Kamala Harris is catching Trump in some that Biden was behind in. You know, several of them, Arizona, Michigan, Wisconsin. Harris seems to be pulling ahead. So you're absolutely right. A week can be things can change quickly in a week, and they have.
Absolutely. Professor Potts, we have been also tracking one poll that talks about the gender divide, especially something that has widened since Kamala Harris has joined the race. In fact, if I could give you some numbers, a few of the polls by Ipsos, Reuters, as well as the Times are suggesting that while female voters are more inclined towards Kamala Harris, we're also seeing that the male voters are more inclined towards Donald Trump. I want to ask you, why do you think that's the case?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, that was somewhat true even before. I mean, the male vote was more towards Trump, and the female vote, particularly African-American, black females, were much more supportive of the Democrat, even Biden. And now I think that's going to happen even more, certainly with a black female as the Democratic nominee. So I don't know. I think there's been Trump has always, and Republicans in general, but Trump in particular has tried to present a tough image at times, and I think that appeals more to male voters. Democrats, more concerned about trying to make sure that people have the resources they need, kind of helping all the people in the population, broadly speaking, and I think that appeals more to female voters.
Right. Professor Potts, I also have another poll. I know I'm talking a lot about the polls, but that's all we have been tracking this week. There's one poll, in fact, from 2015 and another one that's done this year. I will not tell you the results as yet because I want to understand where you are coming from. But the question there was, is the United States ready for a female president? What do you think?
Well, I think so. I mean, I'm cautious with that statement. I mean, recognize Hillary Clinton. She lost the election, but she actually won the popular vote. She lost in the Electoral College. So, 2016, I think people were ready. It just didn't play out that way in the dynamics of the Electoral College. So I think it can certainly happen. And there's certainly a lot of energy with the Democrats now, kind of moving from Biden to Kamala Harris. There's quite a bit of energy. So we will see, but I think it can happen. I don't know what the polls say.
Let me tell you what the poll says. In 2015, about 63% of the voters were more inclined towards a female president. They thought that the US was ready, but now it has slid to in 55-56%. So there has been a slide there, but let's see, as you said, what happens in November. Thank you so much for joining us here on WION, Professor Potts, and getting us your insights.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we haven't been talking about Joe Biden lately, especially since he stepped aside in the presidential race. While many were worried about his political legacy being tainted, he might be ending it with the shiniest medal on his chest. He oversaw the largest prisoner swap since Cold War. Here's a report.
The skies over Ankara bore witness to a scene straight out of a spy thriller. A geopolitical chess match played out on a Turkish tarmac with an unprecedented prisoner exchange echoing the Cold War era. Multiple countries engaged in a complex web of negotiations to liberate 20 captives held hostage to geopolitical tensions. While in US, it was President Joe Biden and his deputy Kamala Harris, in Moscow, a parallel scene unfolded as President Vladimir Putin welcomed his citizens with a sigh of relief.
It's absolutely necessary to get it done. I meant what I said. Alliances make a difference. They stepped up, they took a chance for us. It mattered a lot.
Among the most notable figures released was Evan Gershkovich, a Wall Street Journal correspondent whose detention had become a rallying cry for press freedom advocates worldwide. Alongside him, Paul Whelan, a Michigan-based corporate security executive long considered a pawn in geopolitical machinations, also tasted freedom after years in captivity.
Phone calls, everything that you've done with my family, it means a lot. So,
how do you feel?
I feel great. It's a long time coming. Yeah. So I'm glad to be back.
Among the released were several high-profile Russian opposition figures and 5 German nationals held in Russia and Belarus. Vadim Krasikov, a Russian citizen imprisoned in Germany for the assassination of a former Chechen rebel commander, was also part of the exchange. This intricate exchange, orchestrated through clandestine channels, marks a significant milestone in post-Soviet relations between the United States and Russia. The deal also laid bare the harsh realities of a world divided by mistrust and geopolitical rivalry. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
Shifting focus to the United Kingdom now, a month after becoming the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer has taken a hard stance, announcing a special police unit to crack down on violent protesters. And this comes after there were clashes between protesters and the police across England for 2 consecutive days, following a horrific stabbing incident at a children's dance class. Now, that incident killed 3 and wounded 10. The UK Prime Minister condemned the violence, which he said was conducted by quote-unquote tiny, mindless minority. Starmer assured that his government will put a stop to it.
I can announce today that following this meeting, we will establish a national capability across police forces to tackle violent disorder. These thugs are mobile, they move from community to community, and we must have a policing response that can do the same. Shared intelligence, wider deployment of facial recognition technology, and preventative action.
Meanwhile, the 17-year-old accused was named in court to counter misinformation about his identity that has been blamed for triggering violent protests across England. Judge Andrew Menry said that his decision to allow Axel Rudakubana to be named was exceptional, given the boy's age. He's turning 18 next week. Now, Judge Menry said, and I'm quoting here, continuing to prevent the full reporting has the disadvantage of allowing others to spread misinformation. Axel Rudakubana has been charged with 3 counts of murder and 10 counts of attempted murder, as well as possession of a bladed article for the stabbing incident. Now, correspondent Stuart Smith has more on this from London.
And that announcement coming from Keir Starmer now seems to be less about a new unit or a new set of resources for police, but more an encouragement and new guidelines to use the powers they already have. So he listed some of those in the press conference there. But in addition, this could mean things like the British Transport Police arresting people preemptively based on legislation they have to remove drunk and disorderly people from the trains, rather than waiting until these people get to, for example, the scene of a potential riot, and then police having to deal with them there. Similarly, those same British Transport Police might alert their colleagues that there is a large influx of people who seem to be intent on causing disorder on their way to a location. Those just examples of the kinds of things that the Prime Minister Keir Starmer was implying with his speech, in order, he hopes, to better join up the various police forces around the UK so that they can better share intelligence with each other about upcoming demonstrations, which seems to be something they may already need to be getting ready with for this weekend, with at least 19 demonstrations planned for the next few days, more perhaps similar to what we've seen in cities all across England, this time though across Wales and Northern Ireland as well. On top of that, there are counter-protests likely to be taking place as well.
Now, Venezuela is in a state of crisis. Opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, who is now in hiding after being threatened with arrest, has called for protests in every single city of Venezuela to denounce the disputed re-election of President Nicolas Maduro.
This Saturday, August 3rd, we will gather as families with our children, grandchildren, grandparents in all cities of Venezuela at 10 a.m. In Caracas on Las Mercedes Avenue, because we are going to pay tribute to each one of those heroes who upheld and defended the will of the Venezuelan people on July 28th and who are now being pursued by the regime.
Machado wrote in an opinion article in the Wall Street Journal that she is in hiding and fearing for her life. She emphasized that Edmundo Gonzalez was the rightful winner of presidential election and called on the international community to help Venezuela. Now, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, on the other hand, has said that he is preparing 2 maximum security prisons for those detained during the protests that erupted after his disputed re-election.
I am preparing 2 prisons. Both prisons are to be ready in 15 days. They were already being restored. Tocoron and Tocuyito and all the Guarimberos are going to Tocoron and Tocuyito maximum security prisons.
This has concerned relatives of people detained in Venezuela's post-election crisis, waited outside a detention center in Caracas, hoping to hear from their loved ones.
Mr. President, it's not my fault to be here waiting for my grandson. I did not send him to do anything wrong. I don't condone his actions. You can burn me alive if you want, but release my grandson well and alive, because he is the only one I have.
Furthermore, Venezuela's Supreme Court has accepted President Maduro's request to audit election results. It has further ordered him, Edmundo Gonzalez and 8 other candidates who participated in the presidential election to appear before the justices today. Minutes after the Supreme Court's announcement, Maduro appeared before a crowd from a balcony of the presidential palace and welcomed the court's decision, saying that he will be present at the court today. On the other hand, the U.S. government has recognized Venezuelan opposition candidate Edmundo Gonzalez as the winner of the presidential election. It is discrediting the results announced by electoral authorities who declared that President Maduro has become victorious.
We know that at least 12 million people peacefully went to the polls and exercised their right to vote, and that the sum of more than the 80% of the tally sheets published by the Democratic opposition and received directly from polling stations show that Edmundo Gonzalez received an overwhelming majority of the votes in this election.
Now, earlier, Brazil, Colombia and Mexico called for an impartial verification of the results of Venezuela's presidential election. Brazil has taken over the administration of Argentina's diplomatic premises in Caracas, that's the capital of Venezuela, following the expulsion of Argentine diplomats by Venezuela's government. Now, 6 Venezuelan opposition figures are now taking refuge in the embassy. Brazil agreed to take care of Argentina's interests in Venezuela at the request of its neighbor. Argentina's diplomats were expelled by the government by President Maduro after Buenos Aires criticized his proclaimed re-election. Meanwhile, Venezuelans living in Buenos Aires and Brasilia gathered to ask for peace in Venezuela, as well as to demonstrate against the presidential election result. In Buenos Aires, people lit candles and sang songs during a vigil, spelling out the word peace on the ground. Then across in Brasilia, attendees prayed and said that they were defending their votes as they showed papers with tallies from voting centers gathered by the Venezuelan opposition. Now, at least 13 people have been killed in the protests across Nigeria. Protesters clashed with security forces during mass demonstrations over the country's economic crisis. Authorities said a police officer was also killed. Several people were injured by a bomb in the northeastern state of Borno, where the war on militancy has left millions displaced. Rights groups claim that the police opened fire on the protesters, used tear gas, resorted to brutal force and arrested over 300 people. Now, curfews were imposed in 4 northern states and there were incidents of looting of government and public properties. The Nigerian police are on red alert and deployed the military. The security forces are being accused of using harsh tactics to suppress the anti-government dissent and preempt potential violence.
The security outfits, officers, they are manning everywhere. And I can tell you that there is so much of fear they are trying to instill in people's heart for coming out to a protest today. And that is what is going on right now as we speak.
Inspired by youth-led protests in Kenya, Nigerians organized the End Bad Governance in Nigeria. Demonstrations online to revolt against the cost of living crisis. They are boycotting President Bola Tinubu's economic reforms that have caused inflation, weakened the currency and inflicted financial and economic hardship on ordinary Nigerians. After taking office over a year ago, Nigerian President Tinubu scrapped the fuel subsidies and devalued the naira currency. He also hiked electricity tariffs, a move that sent inflation soaring past 34% and eroded the incomes. Despite the violent unrest calling for the removal of his economic reforms, the Nigerian president vowed to continue with the changes. Now, over in Pakistan, Army has launched an online campaign against judges, political activists and journalists, engaging thousands of its serving officers in a covert operation. According to Pakistani media reports, the campaign being run by Pakistan's army is called Army Awareness Network (AN), instructing the military officers to create fake social media accounts and target the critics of the army by levelling defamatory charges against them or threatening them. The officers also resort to propagating pro-army messages. Their usual targets are the members of Pakistan's civil society and judiciary and supporters of jailed former Prime Minister Imran Khan and his political party Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf. The move to enlist army officers is a clear departure from the past when Pakistan's military employed journalists and social media influencers for online campaigns against the critics. As per reports, the move has alarmed some members of the military as army officers under oath are expected to stay away from politics. The military online campaign comes after the Pakistani government launched crackdown on major media outlets in wake of army-backed no-confidence vote against Imran Khan in the year 2022, leaving social media platforms as the only source of information for the citizens. However, after the unrest that followed the ouster of PTI government, the Pakistani government banned the social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter. And early last year, military's Public Affairs Office, the Inter-Services Public Relations Department, launched Army Awareness Network, focusing on the social media platform Facebook, where now military officers have been ordered to create fake Facebook profiles. Let's go across to Bangladesh now, where the government on Thursday banned Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami, the student wing Bangladesh Islami Chhatra Shibir, and all its associate bodies as political parties and organizations. Bangladesh student-led protests began on peaceful demonstrations against a controversial quota system, remember, in government jobs, but have since morphed into violent nationwide unrest. Now, these are visuals we have just gotten moments back from the Bangladeshi capital. And this exposes deep-seated tensions in Bangladeshi society and raises questions about the country's governance, where clearly the youth and the people are out on the streets against the government. And this, of course, comes after Jamaat-e-Islami has been banned on allegations of terrorism. And with that, we are wrapping up this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching with me, Ananya Datta. Goodbye.
WION Health Resort is unique, the only one of its kind. Experience the 4 paths of natural wellness: yoga, Ayurveda, acupuncture, and naturopathy. Each uniquely customized program improves the whole person to make every person whole. Come to WION Health Resort. Make your reservation at yowon.com.
Namaste. Hello friends. We did Dr. Subhash Chandra show, popularly known as DSC show, for 4 years, from August 2014 to August 2018. 28 states of Bharat. Of course, we reached out to all of you in 190 countries across the world. The show was very successful. Each episode was being watched by almost 25 million people every week. For past 6 years, the demand of the show has never died down. People write to us, people ask for the show to restart again. Hence, we are beginning the show once again on All Z Network, also on WION, which is the global network channel from India. Again, thank you for your love and affection. See you soon at Subhash Chandra Show.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at yoursarthi@such.org.in.
ये तो आ गई सच में।
As cinephiles await the biggest releases of the year,
महाविनाश होगा।
we tell you about some upcoming Indian films of 2024.
This is joy.
Know how many records have Inside Out 2 smashed.
Wow, those guys are jerks. Wow, those guys are jerks.
And learn some lesser-known facts about Mother Monster, aka Lady Gaga. All this and much more with me, Isha Hanspal, at these times only on WION E-Club.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I actually pushed myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
Massive turning point in the West Asia conflict. Israel opens Iran war front. Hamas chief Ismail Haniyeh killed in Tehran, a targeted attack during a visit to Iran for the new president's inauguration. Nearly 2,000 kilometers away in Beirut, Israel kills a top Hezbollah commander in a targeted strike. West Asia on the boil, war clouds darken, and the threat of a wider conflict grows bigger than ever.
Vielleicht nur